that bottle of ketchup sitting in your fridge right now. For about a decade in American history, it wasn't a condiment. It was a prescription. Most people assume ketchup's medicine phase was just some fringe folk remedy. A weird footnote, like chewing willow bark before aspirin existed. Something a few desperate people tried that never really caught on. Here's the contrarian part. It wasn't fringe at all. It was mainstream, doctor-endorsed, mass-produced medicine, sold in pill form, with competing brands fighting for market share. And it collapsed not because people realized tomatoes don't cure disease, but because the medicine business itself got caught lying. The real story isn't about gullible people believing in magic tomatoes. It's about America's first real consumer fraud scandal. And it happened almost 200 years before we ever worried about food labels. I've dug through the original 1830s medical claims, the actual product battle between two rival tomato pill brands, and the investigation that ended it all. Here's how a vegetable pill turned into the condiment on your fries. In 1834, a physician named John Cook Bennett, dean of a medical college in Ohio, made a bold public claim. Tomatoes could cure diarrhea, indigestion, and even jaundice. This mattered because for decades, Americans had been suspicious of tomatoes. Many believed they were toxic. Some even thought eating one could kill you. So when a credentialed doctor stood up and said the opposite, not just tomatoes are safe, but tomatoes are medicine, it didn't just calm fears. It flipped the entire cultural script. Bennett published his claims through newspapers and medical journals, the exact channels people trusted for health information at the time. And in an era before the FDA, before clinical trials, before any regulation at all, a doctor's word printed in a paper functioned as scientific proof. That's the real mechanism here. Not people were gullible, but there was no system yet to check if a doctor's claim was true. Bennett didn't need evidence, he needed a printing press and a title. But a claim alone doesn't build an industry. Someone has to turn belief into a product, and that's where it gets interesting. 3 years later, in 1837, a man named Archibald Miles did exactly that. He created Dr. Miles' Compound Extract of Tomato, an actual pill, sold in tins, marketed directly as medicine, using Bennett's claims as the scientific backbone. Here's the part almost nobody knows. Miles wasn't the only one. Bennett himself tried to commercialize his own research, and the two ended up in direct competition. A genuine market battle over who owned the tomato cure. Newspaper ads accused rival brands of using inferior extract. Pricing wars broke out, and this wasn't one inventor's side project. It was a full-blown industry with competing brands fighting for shelf space in a market that, 4 years earlier, hadn't even existed. Picture that for a second. An aisle of 1830s pharmacy shelves, several different tomato pill brands, each claiming to be the real medicine. The same shelf logic you'd see today between competing supplement brands. This is the moment ketchup's ancestors stopped being an idea and became an economy. And when there's real money on the table, that's exactly when corners start getting cut. This is the twist most people get wrong. The tomato pill industry didn't die because science proved tomatoes don't cure jaundice. It died because the pills themselves were frauds. As competition heated up, some manufacturers realized actual tomato extract was expensive and unstable to produce at scale, so they cut it, swapping in cheap laxatives like gamboge, which gave the illusion of working because it forced a physical reaction. Investigations and public exposés in the 1840s revealed that many of these tomato pills barely contained tomato at all, and the public didn't just lose faith in tomato medicine. They lost faith in the entire unregulated patent medicine industry built on it. This matters because it reframes the whole story. It's not primitive people believed something silly and moved on. It's an unregulated market lied to its customers, got caught, and burned down its own credibility. A pattern you'll recognize instantly because it still happens today. So if the medicine version of tomato extract was dead, how did it come back as something we still trust enough to put on our fries? Once the medical claims collapsed, tomato sauce didn't disappear. It repositioned. Freed from having to prove it cured disease, it got to just be what it always secretly was, a really good flavor enhancer. By 1876, Henry J. Heinz launched his ketchup and made one deliberate choice that echoed the trust crisis of the pill era. He bottled it in clear glass, not the opaque containers competitors used to hide cheap fillers. It was a direct visual promise. Nothing to hide in here. Same industry, same underlying tension. That's why the ketchup bottle exists in the exact form it does today. It's not just packaging. It's a 150-year-old trust signal, born directly from the wreckage of the tomato peel scandal. So the next time you squeeze ketchup onto your fries, you're looking at the final form of a story that started with a doctor's headline, turned into a pill war between competing brands, collapsed in a fraud scandal, and got rebuilt as a clear glass bottle designed to say, "Trust me," without saying a word. It's easy to laugh at tomato pills as some old-timey joke, but the real story is sharper than that. It's the first time America had to figure out what happens when an industry lies to sell you health. And the condiment on your table today is the surviving proof of that lesson. Funny how something that started as fake medicine ended up being one of the most honest products in your fridge.